This is a short video on pressure gauges and pressure indicators, and just a little look at the differences between the two. Now, most of you, when you'd have bought your air rifle, would have probably seen the advertisement saying quick fill, 10-shot magazine, worn up stock and pressure gauge. I think this is technically an inaccuracy, because whenever you speak to people at the miniature pressure gauge company in Birmingham that supply many of the gauges stroke indicators on your air rifle, they immediately point out that it isn't a gauge, it is merely an indicator. And I think this is due to the level of accuracy that these indicators produce in comparison to a proper gauge. So here we have a typical, I think, miniature pressure gauge company indicator. Now, some of these have obviously got the company name in, like Air Arms or Logan, Webley, etc. And that's simply a printing on the inside of the gauge, which we shall look at in a minute. Now, if I just hold the outer bezel, which I'll remove from the actual case, and move the background in my fingers, you'll just see it move. Now I'll show you how this movement is achieved when the indicator is working. So let's take the top off, and inside, as you can see, all there is a little pig's tail of copper with a little piece of brass wire on the end of it. Now, as the pressure enters the indicator through the back, just like with a party kazoo that you've probably had as a child, where it's curled up and then you blow it and it makes a noise and straightens out, this pig's tail of copper tries to do the same thing, and it tries to straighten out a little bit. Now, due to the gauge and thickness of the copper tube and how it's rolled, it will expand to a set amount, and so it is able to provide an indication of the pressure that is in the rifle. So the little peg of brass wire on the end of the pig's tail simply locates into the fold in the back of this aluminium disc, and so as the tail expands and the piece of wire moves, subsequently that in turn moves the indicator dial around. So here we've got a clear injection moulded lens with a little pip on the back, which I think is probably melted over slightly to hold the piece of aluminium plate with the indicator dial on it, and the outside, which is printed, which will sometimes have the manufacturer's own brand name and logo on it, and then that is held into what is a brass case, which looks like it's got a chrome or nickel finish on it. So as you can see, these are very simple. If your gun's second hand, there is a good chance that in the past someone's drastically overfilled it or done other things to it, or got dirt and grime in this, and subsequently they don't read very accurately. Now, I think these various companies say that the plus and minus is between about 5 and 7% on these. I might argue with that a little bit, because I've had one or two over the years that have been brand new and they seem to have been wildly out compared to what my actual proper gauge reads in the workshop. So if you've bought a regulator, or you've had a regulator fitted by someone else, Tenshi, Pekator, BTAS, Airmasters or whatever, and they've told you that the regulator's set at 100 bar, but your simple indicator only reads 70, I wouldn't take any notice of the indicator really at all, but just keep a note of where it is, and then obviously if it starts to go a long way above that or a long way below, there might be a problem. But in general, if we've sent you a regulator and we've said it's 100 bar, it's 100 bar. So this indicator could read, quite a bit above or below. Now we'll compare that, hopefully if we just move that out of the way, to the sort of what is, I think, a gauge, where an indicator stops and a gauge begins, what the qualification between the two is, I'm not quite sure, so I won't say, but I guess it's on the level of accuracy that they produce. So here we have a typical gauge off of your diver's bottle or stirrup pump, and as we can see, it still has the little pig's tail of copper, the air in there, 1/8 BSP thread or 1/4 BSP thread, or if you're in the US, that's more likely going to be a tapered thread. But inside here, hopefully if the camera's focusing, because I can't see the recording lens, you should be able to see down in here, fingers crossed, a little rack and pinion system, some little gears, and a little pig's tail in there, little pig's tail spring to bring it back to 0. So if I put my finger on the needle, hopefully you'll see that moving as I move the needle back and forth. Now, as you can see, the build quality of this is far higher than the indicator on your rifle, and subsequently the accuracy is far better. Now, if you want to buy a very, very good quality gauge that's glycerine filled, a very big dial, and it comes with a proper certificate to be tested for engineering purposes, you know, in industry, whether it's, you know, rail, nuclear, high pressure gas or hydraulic, then you can end up paying as much, if not more, for a proper gauge than you can for your air rifle. So even this, which is far more advanced than the indicator that's on your rifle, is still pretty primitive in a way. If you've got a diver's bottle or something like that, and you might fill from one bottle to another and have one of these, but the gauge which is actually built onto your scuba equipment that you'd look at if you're underwater, the handheld one to indicate how much pressure's left in your dive bottle, would be of a far superior quality to this, and give a far more accurate reading and be more durable, because obviously diving's very, very dangerous and it's life or death. So there's a big difference in the quality that you can purchase. So hopefully that's been of some interest. Hopefully this is all in focus. I don't know how close I can get this to the camera. Hopefully you can just have a last little look inside there, so you know what that's like. And then just a last quick little look at this indicator. How close can we get? I wonder if that's in focus. So there you go. I hope that's been of some interest. And if you've got an indicator on your gun or your indicator's broken, one of the common things with this is if someone's overfilled it or it's become depressurized very, very quickly, is the little brass wire twangs out of this, and so the gauge probably would work if you could get the two to meet up. And this is what that large hole on the side is. This gauge was working and somehow I buggered it up. I thought I'd try and twang it back, but never did. So I thought, right, we'll just skim it off in the machine and make a video so you can have a look inside. I hope that's been of some interest to you.